Well, generally speaking, the roof is one of the most important parts of your house. Water can get in and ruin so many things inside your house that you want to make sure that the roof is in good condition. Generally, what we're looking at is not only the age and application, what condition it's in, but how long the roof is going to last before you either need to tear everything off and re-roof, or you can just throw another application on. Basically, we're walking and feel the structural integrity of the roof, making sure the underlaying sheathing is in good condition, as well as if you have proper ventilation for the roof to remove any heat or moisture out of the attic, which can affect your roof, as well as looking at your chimney and basically gutters and leaders. In this case, these people have never cleaned up their gutters, and you have trees and branches growing inside your gutters, which will allow for ice damming in the wintertime and water potentially to get underneath your roof and then leak inside the house. So it's always a good idea to remove all debris from your roof, as well as cleaning out the gutters and getting all the branches and any plants out of your roof system as well, so all the water can drain properly from your roof. Basically, you want to make sure all your overhanging tree branches, everything, are usually cut back from the roof, otherwise it fills up your gutter with all this stuff, as well as trees and things that are growing up against the house, because this will rub up against your shingle and actually erode the surfacing of the asphalt shingle on your roof as well. So it's a good idea to clear that material away about a foot or so, and so your gutters don't continuously fill up with more debris. Generally speaking, there's a lot of people that try to skip the inspection process to save a little money, which is quite possibly the worst thing you can do. You're spending anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000 on a house, and they want to save $200. It's, you know, the opportunity to make sure you're not moving into a house that is a money pit that you're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix. You know, we get up here, we check the roof and everything, which is the first step in any inspection, and then work our way down all the way to the foundation. Basically, there's over 2,000 items that we're looking at in a house, any which can cost you anywhere from $10 to several $1,000s. All of these systems in your house are pretty much interconnected, so something that goes wrong with one can wind up affecting another. So skipping the inspection process is usually a bad choice. We have been on roofs before where people have put on a brand new roof material over 2-3 layers of existing material, and you're only supposed to go maximum 3 layers on a house, which I don't recommend going above 2. It's an awful lot of weight for your roof. But depending if they put it on top of a shake shingle roof or the existing roof is in such bad shape, or the sheathing underneath is rotted, you could be looking at a roof that looks good but realistically won't support any weight and could eventually collapse or leak water into your house, causing thousands of dollars in damage from water penetration. So along the lines of getting an inspection done by a qualified home inspector, it's definitely worth the money, more so than any other step in the real estate process of buying a house.
You see more people
lately, especially with the turn of real estate in the property value decline, a lot of people are buying houses, as they say, as is. They're buying either these short sales and everything, and they're bypassing the home inspection process because they're told it's buy as is. So they figure there's no way they can negotiate the price of the house down or get anything fixed, so why bother? Well, this is the process where you're going to find out, just like buying a lemon of a car and having a mechanic check it out before you buy something that needs a new transmission. You could potentially be buying a house that needs a new foundation, a whole new plumbing system, a whole new electrical system, which will cost so much money that your savings, you know, in the beginning is going to be almost minuscule compared to what you have to shell out later.
So maybe as is and they can't negotiate, but at least they'll know what they're getting into.
Yeah, it's very important that old saying, buyer beware, because you don't know what people have done to a house. A lot of times they actually get really good contractors and service people come out there and do the work, but 9 times out of 10 these days, people are becoming what I call the Home Depot warriors and taking a 5-minute class and going in and doing the work themselves. Now, I don't know anything about cars, so I wouldn't fix my own car. I wouldn't recommend somebody who knows nothing about electrical or plumbing or anything going in there and doing the work because they want to save themselves a couple $100, winding up putting together something that is just a pile of garbage. In the long run, sometimes you save a little bit of money by doing the work yourself, but if you really don't know what you're doing, it could be a headache when you come in here later and realize that somebody used super glue on your plumbing, or, you know, I've seen people wire water heaters with speaker cable, or they've ducted waste gases from their furnace and stuff into their actual heating ducts, so it puts carbon dioxide back into their house. There's a lot of things that I see that I just have to shake my head. People use the wrong kind of materials. I've seen people use a siding material for their roof. I've seen people put tile over carpeting. Yeah, there's.
Even do that.
It's really silly. I mean, I've seen people do things that you would never know they did. One of my favorites one time is someone had a dance studio in their basement for ballet, and the next person came in wallpapered all over all the walls. So instead of removing all the glass, it looked like a regular wallpapered room. Now, the first time that person went over there to hang a picture and went to nail something in, the whole wall would have shattered. They had no idea. And every once in a while you run into something like this and it just makes you shake your head because, you know, it's one of the, like I said, buyer beware. You're buying something that people have lived in for years and years and years. And especially the most important thing is electrical wiring. People overload their houses all the time. One case I remember really clear was a previous homeowner that kept adding more and more and more to an existing service that was not designed but for 100 amps, and by the time this guy was done, he was trying to pull over 300 amps from one panel, adding more and more and more. And I actually told the person who was buying the house that they needed to have an electrical guy come in here and redo everything, and he didn't listen. Well, a week after he moved in, electrical fire burned down the entire house. And it's not only important to get the inspection, but to heed the recommendations of the inspector when he finds these things, especially for safety and everything else, because houses are designed to do certain things, and people always try to push them to the limit. And to protect all your expensive computers, your appliances, and everything else, there's a reason why we spend so much time looking at the electrical systems inside of a house and the heating systems. Between electrical fires, overload, with heating system, carbon monoxide, gas leaks, this is something that can create unsafe living conditions. So it's always important to have those items checked out before you move in. Even simple things, 9 times out of 10, smoke alarms don't work, no carbon monoxide detectors. You know, it's just standard things that people overlook. They just don't pay attention to it until it's too late. Well, one of the things that we look at that we see a lot is there's certain shortcuts people will take. Also, you got to understand that prior to 1980s, a lot of municipalities and counties didn't really enforce a lot of code issues. So people got away with putting stuff up and doing things without really having them checked out and made sure they were done properly. Most specifically is fencing. Now, if you can see this one, this fence is about to go. All the posts that are going into the ground were never set into concrete footing, so the bases of all the posts are all rotted. So this whole fence, if it wasn't for this wood pile right here, this would have fallen over already. Also the undergrowth and the vegetation and everything, it's always a good idea to kind of trim back any of the weeds and noxious plants that just seem to grow all over the place and grow in between the fences, like right here. This whole fence has to go. Not only that, but you have a lot of dry rot. You know, the pieces are splitting, the nails are popping out. This will be a little hazard to children and everything. If they're playing around, they, you know, especially when they fall out into the ground, the kids can step on it and everything else. So it's always important to, you know, look at these projects realistically and make sure that they have proper footings, meaning concrete, so it goes below the frost layers. So come winter time, the ground doesn't freeze and heave and push up the fence posts and the support and create the fence to move back and forth. And then obviously water getting in the ground and rotting out any wood member that's in contact with the soil. That's why we really look at fence posts, decks, patios and stuff like that, where people are putting wood that is not pressure treated into the dirt. It's just going to rot. And basically what dry rot is versus anything else is that it is absorbed water so much time and dried, and then absorbs water and dries, that actually becomes really flaky and comes apart. And so there's been enough water here getting underneath where now I can stick my finger right underneath a support post because it's all rotted out. And then basically this whole slab will eventually settle and crack apart. And at that point, it's too late because these slabs are really heavy and it'll compact the earth. And then once this goes and this settles, the support's on top of it, the roof connected to it on top, everything goes with it. So it's always a good idea to maintain a good drainage getting away from your house. Now, if you ever come into a house and see one of these devices, this is a fan motor that is actually connected to a pipe that goes down underneath the foundation. This is a radon mitigation system. Radon gas is naturally occurring. It's in every state in the United States except for one, Hawaii. Why? Because Hawaii is actually a volcanic island. So radon is just a low-level radioactive gas that comes up through the soil and disappears, and it's usually harmless. But when it gets to your house and people build their houses more heat efficient, close up their windows and doors in the wintertime, it collects in the house and it doesn't vent outside. And it's been linked by the EPA as the second leading cause of lung cancer next to smoking. So it's a really simple fix. They just install a pipe, it goes underneath the foundation, have a fan here, and it pulls the air from under your foundation and vents it outside. And so it's always recommended to have your houses tested for radon. And, you know, sometimes they might have a system already installed. You might ask them, you know, to show you what the original readings were and what they were reading afterwards, because whenever they install these, they should always do a follow-up test to see what the effectiveness is based on the size of the motor. A lot of people tend to store a lot of items around the furnace, which you want to always keep about 6 to 8 inches in front of the orifice where the unit is, like on the water heater right here. This is basically where you light the water heater and you need to check it. And it's always a good idea to not store any combustible items near something that burns fuel. So what we do is we pretty much go through the entire house looking at other items. Pressure relief valve, we check all the gas lines and make sure there's no gas leaks. Check all the venting to make sure they vented these properly. Just the other day I inspected one in Denver. They vented these into a stack, an old brick stack, but there was a giant hole in the back of the stack. So as soon as they vented this in here, it filled up the entire basement with carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas. Basically, you won't smell it, you won't notice, but you go to sleep, you won't wake up. So it's real important that you have all these things checked, as well as having good smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors inside your home. And, periodically checking them, making sure the batteries, or if it's connected to the electrical system, making sure the units are working properly. Oh boy. Currently in the state of Colorado, there is no licensing to have a home inspection. Realtors will recommend one, but like I said, there's so many for sale by owners and other processes now where realtors aren't involved. So people will go in there and just, have a cousin or an uncle or someone that at one time was a builder or something like that come in there and check out the house. Now that's fine. They might know a lot about building, but in an inspection you're looking at like 12 different systems, and basically it breaks down into structural, mechanical, which is your construction of the house, foundation, joist, the attic, things of that nature. Your mechanical, which is basically the operation of any appliances, things of that nature. Your electrical system, which is all your branch circuits, wire, your panel, your feed coming in from the street. Then also your plumbing systems, which is everything from the toilets to the bathroom and kitchen sinks, your waste lines, and then part of the mechanical, which is really important, is the heating system, your hot water heater, your furnace, and making sure that they all work properly, that there's no gas leaks, no carbon monoxide leaks, there's no cracks in the exchangers, no leaks in a water system such as a boiler or a radiant heat system that's inside your floor, and just making sure everything after you buy the house is properly serviced and it can last forever. If everything's maintained, then most of your appliances, most of your systems in there will last a long time. The problem is you looked around in this room, it's used for storage. There's so much stuff in here that you wouldn't even be able to tell if there was something wrong. And a lot of times for an inspection, I don't have the time to remove everything from an entire room. So realistically, I can't tell you what's on those walls behind all these boxes. So especially in a furnace, in this case it's summertime, so what we were hearing is what's going on right now is the central air conditioner, which is basically this top part right here connected to an outside unit, which is basically your condenser and your compressor unit, and it goes through the ducts that are for the furnace itself. So what we're basically looking at is to make sure the inside of the exchangers are clean, the flame levels for the furnace are blue and not yellow, which would indicate a proper air-gas mixture. Making sure that certain things like this, which is a pop-up assembly, the minute I touch it, the unit will kick back on. This is a safety feature, so kids don't take this apart and stick their hand inside the blower motor and get their digits chopped off. It's also for service. Take it off, it'll keep the unit from turning on. You also have a switch, which I believe is right up there, and that's your emergency shutoff switch. So basically you just want to make sure all the wires are connected. There's no rust, there's no other items in here, debris inside the exchanger ports, flame level's good, everything's operating, the fans, the vent fan for the waste gas to remove the waste gas from the house, and all the other little doodads are in good shape. It's also real important to know where your shutoffs are and your gas lines, and make sure if you have kids and stuff, they know they're not supposed to mess around with some of these pipes and stuff like that, because the black ones carry gas, the copper ones or silver ones are for water. So it's always important that some homeowners know which is which, because I have heard of people cutting into gas lines, and you know, there has been history of people cutting gas lines and stuff like that, creating a spark. Kaboom.
Yeah.
That's actually coming from right behind the tub seal. It's not actually coming from the plumbing lines. This water is dripping out behind the edge of the shower. So it probably means there's a little opening in the grout, and water's getting behind the grout, behind the tile, and it's dripping out, which means that the tile wall eventually is just going to disintegrate and come apart, and they're going to have to replace all the drywall behind the tile as well. So a little drip like this can wind up costing thousands of dollars because it wasn't addressed. Even going up there and just putting a little bit of caulk in there will solve the problem temporarily until they can do something. But it's funny how often little things like this just get ignored. Everything in a house, most everything, is fixable. A lot of realtors will jokingly call home inspectors deal killers, but you know, we're hired to go into a house and find these issues so you're made aware of it before you sign on the dotted line and spend what we consider the biggest investment in your life, you know, on a could be a clunker, could be a great house. Most everything is fixable. This is totally fixable. Everything that we've seen so far is a fixable item. Whether or not people have the money to do it right away or they just want to do a temporary fix. But at least the home inspection gives them what I would consider like a manual. So when they have little time here and there on weekends, they flip through it and say, oh yeah, we have to fix this, 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 and this, so people don't forget. But anytime it's gas or water or electrical, really those items should be fixed right away. And hopefully it's the items that are either too costly or too difficult to fix that a regular Joe can't fix himself. Have that done before you move in, because obviously people move in and they store a whole room full of boxes and everything else, and those little items get forgotten real quick. So it's always a good idea that everything get looked at properly and documented so you can make your best decision on whether or not this is something you can afford to buy and fix up, or just straight out go and buy something that's brand new. But even brand new construction, there's a lot of corners that get cut, a lot of things that get forgotten about. Basically, in 15 years, I have never been in a house that has not had one problem. Could be a small problem, but every house has problems. And that's just, you know, the way things are. So, get it? Basically, standard report is about anywhere from 7 to 10 pages. Okay? I actually write it up while I'm doing the inspection. So, hold on, let me get this. It's an old, this thing was state-of-the-art 10 years ago. One of the first touch screens. Basically, as you see the inspection, it starts like we did. We go one section at a time, and in this order. We start at the roof, gutters, chimney, siding trim, fascia soffits, porches, decks, patios, walk steps, driveway, swimming pool, grading, drainage, trees, shrubs, walls, fences, foundation, garage, heating system, cooling, such as air conditioner, hot water heater, electrical system, plumbing, your water supply, attic, insulation, ventilation, doors, windows, storms, screens, security, walls, ceilings, floors, bathrooms, fixtures, drainage, kitchen, appliances, basement, water penetration, fireplace or wood stove. Then we offer different inspections like wood destroying insects such as termites or carpenter ants, waste disposal system such as septic system or a cesspool, radon gas testing, and then there's also testing for a water analysis if you're on a well. And basically it's, you know, We just print it, do everything right there as we're walking around the inspection. But basically, this way we can go through the entire inspection and you can go through each section, and that way as we're walking around looking at things, I might find something else like plumbing or electrical. I might find an outlet in one room that is not wired properly, or it has been burned out, or ground fault circuit interrupter is fried, and then we can go back and add everything as we go. And we recommend that people come to the inspections with us so we can walk around and show them all these things. That way when they get the report, it just goes to solidify the information we gave them already, and it just helps, you know, so they've seen it. They were walking around and I pointed at it and showed them, because it doesn't make much sense to have a home inspection and not go to it and try to get all that valuable information about a house you're buying, unless you're very knowledgeable about these systems already and can read it and follow along with it. So, and that's pretty much what we do.